Hi guys, this is Anna and welcome to my first book haul video of 2018. It's gonna be rather long because there's a lot of books to go through. I haven't recorded any of the videos of such format in a very long time. Pretty much I haven't really purchased any books since September. But Christmas happened, my birthday happened just before Christmas, so book purchasing has taken place and it's now past halfway point in the winter and I still have not recorded any videos. So this is going to be the first part of my winter books, because I'm sure it's going to be more. The vast majority of these books came from a charity shop. As you will see, there are quite a few. Some of them are in an amazing condition for charity shops, so I feel really privileged. Some in Russian, the vast majority is in English. There is a nice pile of non-fiction, which I'm probably gonna leave until the very last. We did a trip just before New Year, so that before Christmas and New Year we went to Wales. And there is lovely tiny city, right? Tiny town, it's not a city, Hay, and it's known to be the bookish shop in the UK. So I browsed quite a lot and purchased quite a few books. So yeah, without further ado, because I can ramble for a while. What do I have? I have The Crab Walk by Günter Grass. This is Modern Classics, published by Faber and Faber, and this is second-hand copy, which I love. I've not read anything by Günter Grass, but the topic of World War II and World War I is something I really like, and he has won Nobel Prize for Literature, so I really need to meet with author finally. And then expanded on my collection of Graham Greene. I loved him last year. He was in my top 10 books of the year with The End of the Affair. So now I have picked up the Monsignor Quixote. I also finally came across Amos Oz, and this is The Same Sea. Again, he's really popular in Russia. He's been translated a lot, but I've never read him. And I found this a really good copy for a very good price of 50p, and I just had to get it. Something which I wanted to get my hands on for a very long time, because it seems like this book has been all over the booktube in the last 2 years. This is Burning His Evelina, and I wanted it specifically in the Oxford World's Classic edition because it has really nice introduction. It does have really nice explanatory notes, which I will absolutely need. So when I saw this in my favorite Oxfam, I literally had to grab this book in case someone else gets it before me. Not gonna happen this year, but it's probably going to make a list of my TBR for next year. As you know, one of the editions I really like is the Penguin Modern Classics. So pretty much if I see something published by them, I know I'm more likely gonna like them as well. This is Eric Ambler. This is sort of a modern classic British author from 1930s, and I never read his works. And this is set during World War II, what in like the beginning of Cold War. What is not to like? So yes, I've picked this up as well. Next two are the most recent acquisitions. I literally just bought them on the weekend. One is Hilary Mantel and Her Flood. I have read her autobiography last year, loved her language. And this is another of her shorter works, so earlier works. So I think before I go anywhere near her Man Booker Prize winner books, I'll probably read this. And then another one I just had to get because another publisher I really like is New York's Book Review, and it's in excellent condition. This is The Years of French by Thomas Flanagan. It has a really nice, really long introduction. I have never read the author, but I just could not pass this by because I have heard of him, particularly on the Goodreads from people whom I follow. They have read him and liked him, so I picked it up. And the next 4 books, it's going to be a 5th one. I'm still waiting. I got 4 in one online retainer, and the 5th one I'm waiting for is the first one in the series, and this is the Nobel Prize winner from Ukraine, Svetlana Alexievich. All of her works have been translated into English, but I want to read them translated into Russian because it's bound to be better translation, simply because it's a closer language to translate, and most people will be bilingual who will translate anyway. So I have here «Цинковые мальчики». And then I have «Последние свидетели». «Время second hand». I think this is the last of the 5-book trilogy, quintology. And last from what I have so far is «У войны не женское лицо», which I have just seen in the Waterstones, and in English it was double the size. And the font in the Russian is not even that small. So I'm thinking maybe they have more of an introduction, literary work, that's why in English it's bigger. I'm still waiting on Chernobyl one. Right, while I'm on Russian books, I have bought Mikhail Bulgakov. I like Mikhail Bulgakov, but I need to reread most of his works. So I kind of decided to go more into his short stories. So I got 3 volumes, and they do overlap with some of the shorter stories, but some of them are different in each. So I have here Белая гвардия, or the White Guard. I have Собачье сердце, or the Dog's Heart, and it has multiple stories. It's not just this, it's just like the main one. Then from a different publisher I have Собачье сердце, so again Dog's Heart, Жизнь господина де Мольера, and another collection of short stories. And there are about 6 short stories in this one which are not in the other 2. And then another book I have purchased. This is by Anatoly Romarin-Gov. I don't think he has been translated into English that much. He was writing about the silver poetry age in the very early Soviet Union and Russia in the 1920s. He knew some of the most prominent Russian poets of that period. And this is his Бессмертная trilogy, so he talks about the life in Moscow in the literary circus. What is wrong with me today? And the literary scene around that time, and that book is quite difficult to get in Russian because it has a very, very small number published. And I found it in Germany in a second-hand shop online. So I was really pleased to get it. And if I like it, I think my mom wants to read it. It's like those are some of the Russian literary figures he mentions, like Yesenin, who was his friend. But he has not really been translated. I'm waiting for another book I have purchased by him on eBay. When it arrives, probably gonna go in the second half. Okay, next one is Emile Zola and his Money. I think this is 16th or 18th out of the 20th published. I did not have this one, and this will be the 4th one I will be reading this year, because I absolutely love The Fortunes of Dragon, so I will be reading 3 more this year. I have pre-ordered the one which is coming out end of April, so I will be reading it, which is the 6th chronologically published in May this year. But this is The Money, and again this is Oxford World Classics, and I want to read Zola translated by this particular publisher. Then I managed to find this lovely, really good quality edition. This is the Book of American Martyrs by Joyce Carol Oates. A lot of people praise this book, and I wanted to grab it for a very, very long time, but I was looking for a cheaper version somewhere, and I saw it when we went to Wales for a decent price, so I picked it up. Another book I picked up in Wales is something Steve Donoghue was talking about. I think he had it in one of his shelves, or he mentioned this book as the one he really enjoys. It's Anthony Burgess and his But Do Blondes Prefer a Gentleman. Homage to the Warped Tube and the Other Writings by Anthony Burgess. That's his picture. So it's a used edition, it's a second-hand edition, which I'm quite pleased to have in my collection. Again, I might get to it next year, or it might have to wait until 2020. We're roughly halfway through the haul. Rest of them are pretty much all second-hand shops. I have read 2 books by Margaret Atwood, so one in both last year actually. 2017. So I saw this and I picked it up, so it might be my next read by her. This is The Heart Goes Lost, and it's in the same edition as The Blind Assassin. Don't know anything about this book. I'm not even that into Margaret Atwood. Like, I enjoyed The Blind Assassin, but I was not blown away. But she's considered to be one of the authors from Canada now, so, and she's a female author, so I probably will be reading this next year. I have Tolkien, The Hobbit. This is the used edition. Again, I picked up in Wales, in Henway. I have not read it since I was a child, but I thought it's a hardbound edition. It's a little bit tattered, it's a bit loved, but when my baby arrived, this is something my mom read to me before school, sort of. I was quite young. This is like equivalent of a fairy tale, so I think I might be reading to my child, so I picked it up. I'm continuing to expand my collection of Amitav Ghosh. This is The Hungry Tide. I have not read any of his books, but people keep singing him praises, and I do want to expand my collection of Indian authors, or books by even the same Indian author I liked, so I picked this up. Staying with the Indian theme, the next two books, they came as a recommendation by some of the booktubers whose videos I watched, like that was on the top books of the 2017 for them. So one of them is The Parcel by Nosharani, and this was recommended for those who read the Institute of Utmost Happiness, the one which was shortlisted for the Man Booker Prize last year. And I then picked up A State of Freedom by Neil Mukherjee. Again, this was highly recommended, and I never heard of. And the next two was sort of a bit of a Christmas present for me. I picked up William, Trevor After Rain, because I have heard about this book from a colleague of mine who really likes it, and I never read him. And I like those editions. This looks exactly like Penguin editions, which looks very similar to Roald Dahl. His short stories republished last year. And then I wanted to read more from the Man Booker shortlist and long list from last year. So I picked up Fiona Mosley Elmit, which was shortlisted in my local Waterstones, and I was quite surprised to see that actually it's signed. So I have a signed copy of the Elmit, which I have not read yet. I've read Lincoln and Bardot, which I liked, but I'm not over the moon with it. So we'll see whether I like this one. Right, we're done with the fiction. The last bit of the haul is all non-fiction. Alright, non-fiction, here we go. Because I love Lawrence Durrell, and I quite like his younger brother Gerald Durrell, when I saw this in the Waterstones, I just had to get it. This is Michael Haag and his Durrells of Corfu. So it's basically like a non-authorized biography of the family of the two brothers. And it's set in Corfu. They did live in Corfu for a while, so I had to pick it up. As far as Lawrence Durrell go, I picked up two of his non-fiction works. One is Stiff Upper Lip in the quite a vintage edition, so this is the first edition of this book in Wales. This is where I found it. And then I picked up this. I would love to get it in the original edition, but beggars can't be choosers. This is his Bitter Lemons of Cyprus, when he talks about his experience of living in Cyprus. I've read the first chapter on a whim, and I quite liked it, like when he leaves Venice and he takes a boat to Cyprus, and his experience and his first encounters. So I'm really gonna like this, I think. Then I picked up This Is Going to Hurt. I heard about this book for a very long time. It was on my to-read list, but it was a little bit pricey, so I was waiting for it to come into my charity shop. And then it finally did. I snatched it. I don't think I will keep it. I think it's going to be a really quick read. I like books, non-fiction books set in medical settings. I just find them really easy to read. They don't really stress me, they don't terrify me. So chances are when I read it, this is gonna go back in the same shop. I have Almost Famous Women's Stories by Megan Burnham. I actually think they should be in the fiction. This is part of the group read, a book club run by the Book Riot on Goodreads, which I was kind of playing with the idea of joining, but it didn't really happen. But I still would like to read this book one day. Then I got a library copy of The Harvest of Sorrow. It is a hardbound. It used to be part of Pacific University Library of Forest Grove, Oregon, and someone obviously had written the name. It's quite an old book. It lost its dust cover. It's published by the Oxford University Press in 1986, and I'm interested in it because it deals with the Red Famine, something I read by Amber Baum in December, and I would like to continue. This was one of the books she cited a lot, and it has not been reprinted since, and it's quite difficult to find. So again, beggars can be choosers. I found this for a decent price, and I don't really mind the name written on it. Another one which I wanted for a while. This is Imperial Apocalypse, published by Oxford University Press once again. This is Joshua N. Sanborn, The Great War and the Destruction of the Russian Empire. Heard really good things about it, particularly from the History Magazine, from the History Magazine podcast. I came across this book referenced twice now, so something else to read in Russian history. And then 4 books which I got from the same publisher called Z. You probably heard about this publisher from other booktubers. It's a London-based, so UK publisher. They're quite pricey, but they did a really good sale, like 50% off, just before Christmas and Boxing Day. So I've purchased the 4 books which I wanted to get for the longest. One of them is Understanding West Africa's Ebola Epidemic. I have to talk about Ebola, I have to teach it to GCSE and A-levels, and I would like to know more. It's a non-fiction. It's written by an academic, so it does have like paper citations, but it has been digested for someone who just have a bit of scientific background. It's quite chunky. And within the similar thread, Zika. So this has been translated from Portuguese. It's written by Deborah Diniz. She's an epidemiologist working in Brazil, so she actually traveled to an area sort of more removed from Rio de Janeiro, like from the larger cities basically. She went to Amazonia, and she talks about the impact the Olympic Games had on the social psyche, how the government tried to suppress the epidemic, and talks about the experience of the people in rural communities who actually had children born affected by the Zika virus. I think this will be amazing read. Then I have Redefining Genocide, the Genocide, the Settler Colonialism, Social Death and Ecocide. This is by Damien Short. I have heard about this particular book from multiple sources, including Thinking Aloud, and I love Thinking Aloud, so I do need to read more, sort of more anthropological books. So I think that would be a good place to start. And then last but not least, it's the topic which grabbed me. I did not really originally wanted to buy it, but it was really heavily discounted. And it's about a Russian revolution. So this is Georgia's Forgotten Revolution, The Experiment of 1918 to 1921 by Eric Lee. Don't know anything about this book, but the subject area is interesting. So yeah, I'll give it a go. And if I like it or don't like it, I'm sure I will let you know. As you know, Stalin came from Georgia, so I'm quite interested to see how that turbulent time when the Soviet authority was quite weak, and a lot of those countries which are now independent following the collapse of the Soviet Union were trying to establish their independence, but were heavily suppressed and were forced to join the Bolsheviks, the Soviet Union. It has really nice pictures. It has, again, quite a lot of referencing for each chapter, so it's a proper non-fiction. So that's it. Those are all the books I have purchased from December till pretty much the end of January. Hope you found it interesting, guys, and I'll see you in my next video. Bye!